Okay, guys, I think you can hear me now. I just needed to, I just made a silly mistake. So can anyone confirm that you actually have sound? Great. So we'll just start right over from the very start. I'm sorry about this glitch. It's the first time we did this webinar, so some glitches are bound to appear. Okay, welcome to this webinar. Sorry about wasting your first 5 minutes. My name is Per Arne Flatberg, and this is the first IWDB webinar. What we wanted to cover in this webinar is the search options in IWDB. And we'll start off by searching for Sunningdale. And what you can see here is that we only get one result. So one way we can remedy that is to just press enter, and we will get all homes where Sunningdale is mentioned in the name. As you can see, there's only one starting with Sunningdale, but there's loads of others that have Sunningdale in the name. So that's one way to do it. Another way is to utilize the wildcards we have in IWDB. So by just using the percentage sign like this, we will get all homes which have Sunningdale in the name. Another way to do this is if you are uncertain if there's a space or not in the name, or maybe an apostrophe or something else, you can use the wildcard to search for that. One example is the quite famous Wild Isle Kennel in the United States. As you can see, there's only 4 hounds that have Wild space Isle, but most of her breeding is with Wild Isle in one word. So you can use the percentage sign to search for 0 or more characters like this. And again, pressing enter, you'll get all results. You may have noticed that on the front page, there's a limit of 100 found hounds. So if I search for a famous kennel like Pitlochris, which has bred more than 100 hounds, I will need to press enter to get all the results here. And I can browse down and see them all. Right, so that's like the tips and tricks on the main search page. Our main topic today is the advanced search, which may be found here under the hamburger menu, as it's called, under advanced search. Or if we are on a page, we can always go to advanced search on the top here. So this is quite brand new. And of course, we can always search for Sunningdale here as well. And we will get the same results as we did earlier on. What I'd like to mention before we go any further is that there's some advantages to actually being logged in to the site. The main advantage is that you can save searches and pick them up from here. So if you have quite long and complex searches like this one, it's quite an advantage to be able to actually save that. And in order to do that, you have to be logged into the site, and logging in is free and it's very easy. Oops, I got a message that sound has gone now. I don't think it has. We'll see. Okay, let's see if sound is back now. Okay, we have sound. Okay, good. Sorry about the sound problems. I have to get another mic. What I was saying is that if you are logged into the site, you have the option to actually save and load searches like this. And these searches can be quite long, and it's a great advantage to be able to actually save them. The other options of being logged in is that you are, or the other advantages is that you are able to get some more options when looking on a pedigree. You have to correct append to pedigree, add media files, and add litter. In addition, you're able to add and edit private notes, which are completely private to you, and which may be searched for later on, like that. So I added a private note here. This is Eileen, and I can go in here, private notes, search for Eileen, and hopefully we'll get it. Yeah, there she was. So that's some of the advantages of being logged in. It's free, completely free. It's quite easy to do. We have video on our Facebook page showing how to do that. And we promise we won't spam you. Those of you who have been with us for the last 3.5 years know that you haven't got a single email from us promoting the site or anything like that. Okay. We talked about Jason of Sunningdale. It wasn't a coincidence that I mentioned him, because Jason of Sunningdale is one of the most used sires in the breed. Nobody actually has more offspring than he has. So I can look for sire and enter Jason of Sunningdale here to see all his progeny in one go. 266 puppies we have, which is quite a useful thing to do. One of the things that happen when we have a proficient or a sire that's used that much is that most hounds eventually will become related to him. So I can do something like this and say that we want to find ancestor Jason of Sunningdale, and we can change the where option here to is not. Search for any hound who doesn't have Jason of Sunningdale in his pedigree. If I just press search now here, I will get too many results because there are more than 2,500 hounds in the database that aren't related to Jason of Sunningdale. This will take quite a bit of time as well, because it's a long and complex search before it actually will fail. So what I'll do instead is use the plus button here and add another option and say that year born should be after let's say 1975, to get the latest ones that aren't related to him. We'll see what happens. Might be a problem there. So we'll just start over with that one. Ancestor is not Jason of Sunningdale. There we are. And oops, year born more than 1980. And we'll see if we have any results. Some of these searches may be quite slow because we are searching for, here we go, too many results. So let's say just 2000 or maybe 2010 as last year. There we go. There are 9 hounds that were born after 2010 that are not related to Jason of Sunningdale coming up here. And I can look at one of them, just clicking it, and we'll see this is from an American breeder, a quite inbred hound here. And of course, you can always explore all these hounds just as you like. So another option we have is to, if we are keeping with Jason, let's say we want to find all hounds where Jason of Sunningdale no, let's say all hounds where the sire is from Sunningdale. Let's try to write correctly. And dam is Sunningdale. And click search now. So Bridget asked if anybody are recording the webinar, and it will be put live on the Facebook page afterwards, so you may look at it afterwards. So no response there, so we have to search for sire is Sunningdale, and what I did was to change the operation from and to or. So sire contains Sunningdale, or dam contains Sunningdale, and we should get more results now. There we go, 358 hounds found there. So that's like the basic operations. You use the field you want to search for here. You create an option to say where you want to search, anywhere in field, beginning of field, end, exact match, or doesn't contain, and use the operation or and. And then you can always add or subtract conditions here. So this opens a lot of options for us. And I wanted to talk a bit about the history of the breed. One of the things you can search for is breed. And as you may know, the Irish Wolfhound was composed of 5 different breeds, plus the Irish Wolfhound when it was recreated. The Scottish Deerhound, the Borzoi, the Great Dane, the Mastiff, the Tibetan Hound, and the Irish Wolfhound. And in addition, there's a few hounds that are crossbred that are entered into the database because they were registered as Irish Wolfhounds. So we can always look for these things. And now I'm searching for crossbreed and found these 2 hounds, which are registered without parents and without date of birth, but are approximately born in 1940. Again, I can click on them and go to the offspring and see that they were actually bred from. But this particular line stops quite early on. You see there's some hounds born in the Netherlands here in the 1960s that were related. But if I expand on this and continue to use the the reverse pedigree, we can see that it actually stops here. Another option is to search for the Mastiff, and we have 2 Mastiffs in the database. It's Adam and Lion, where Lion is actually Adam's son, and these Mastiffs are in all pedigrees these days. Another fun thing to do is to search for some of the more used hounds in the database. So we can look for ancestor again, and now go to Sildarian Oculophen, which is one of the breed founders and the very latest founder of the breed. And she was Sildarian Oculophen was born by the Gardner sisters, bought by the Gardner sisters, sometimes in the 30s. And what you can see here is if I add year born, and say it's more than maybe 1970, you should be able to get the latest hounds which are not related to Sildarian Oculophen. Again, these ancestor searches, they take a bit of time because they are complex. There we go, 200 results. And you can see the very last hound not related to Sildarian was born in 1981, again in America. Muscail Lois's Melody, which some of you actually might know. So that's just a few of the things we can do with breed history. Another thing I find fascinating is to look for the number of offspring and number of litters hounds had. So I can do a search for hounds that had maybe more than 20 litters. and we should get a list here of 94 hounds. So you can always look at these because they will be quite important to breed history. We can also do combine that with maybe the sex search and say females. We won't have any females with 20 or more litters, but maybe say 5 or more litters. We can look for them like that. There's quite a few, most of them in the early days of the breed history. This also gives us the option to look at some of the geographic spread of the breed. I thought I'd just do a country of origin search here and search for maybe New Zealand to see all the hounds that were bred in New Zealand. And you can find them all here, 837 hounds. The last one born in 2018. They're all sorted by date of birth at the moment. That might change in the future, but we might get some options to actually sort this list as we like it. And we can also do searches for the year a hound was born and say maybe 2019, this year. We'll see there's quite a few hounds born this year registered already. And I think it's quite fun to compare that with how it was in 1960, for instance. This year, 728 hounds born so far. 1960, there were only 128 born altogether across the world. So there's lots of fun things we can do with history. History tells us stories, but there's also, or always, the contemporary thing that's maybe most important to us. So I thought I'd go into the health queries we actually have now. And the first thing I thought I'd do was to search for cause of death and maybe search for osteosarcoma. And you'll see that we got a fairly comprehensive list, 576 hounds that are registered as dead with the cause of death being osteosarcoma. We don't have all information about lifespan, obviously. We're completely dependent on breeders and owners entering that information to get it into the database. So if you have lost a hound, please do. We are maybe not so concerned about hounds that died from osteosarcoma, but rather more about when they died from it. And what we can do is to combine that search with a lifespan search and say, okay, find hounds who died from osteosarcoma earlier than 5 years of age. And you will get a much smaller list by doing that. You can combine searches like that forever and ever. Another thing we can do is to search for lifespan in itself, which is here, and say maybe find all hounds that live for more than 12 years, which we know are quite important to the breed. And by doing this, we might find some patterns here and seeing some breeders that are repeating, and that should be educational and inspiring to those of you who look for those things. We have also recorded ancestral lifespan. So we have a field here called lifespan in pedigree of 5 generations, where we actually computed the average lifespan of 5 generations for all hounds in the database. And let's see, we want something with more than 8 years. And we want to combine this one because it doesn't help to have one ancestor with lifespan of more than 8 years if there's only one ancestor that's listed in the pedigree with a known lifespan. So we can add the ancestors with known lifespan here and say that, okay, we want more than 50 hounds to have a known lifespan in the pedigree. And click update. And we see we get quite a few hounds actually who has an ancestral lifespan of more than 8 years on average, and who have more than 50 hounds with known lifespan. So these things should be interesting to work with for a lot of you, hopefully. Another thing I wanted to show you is that we have the option to search for health checks, and the health check is quite different from the other searches. So we can find health check here, is or is not, and we can choose from a number of common health checks here. Let's just do elbows, for instance, and then we can search for the common results we have in the database. I'll just leave it at any and click the update here to find all hounds that we know have had an elbow check. That's 1,796 hounds actually. And you will have to go into each and every one to see the check which is there. It's in health info, and here you can see the elbow dysplasia check here. Result 0, which is free at the age of 23 months, and Norwegian Kennel Club is the source for this particular one. Of course, you can also change this and say, oh, I only want to show normal health checks, which means the American normal standard. You will find these results. But searching in any of these won't give you any results worldwide. It's because these checks or these parameters are local to the various countries, and it might be hard to find all hounds that have a 0, for instance. Although you can combine it like this: health check is 0, or health check elbows 0, 0, 0 there, and you should be able to find all that are free, which are registered in that way. Right. You can also use this to look for hounds that are known to be heart checked, for instance. Choosing heart here, any is the result, and you will get a number of hounds. And again, combining these health checks, heart, elbows, any, both those that are heart checked and those that have had their elbows screened. We have quite a large list of that as well. Okay, go on to another field, titles. And now I'll just pull up some of these saved searches that I have here. So I'll go with the Champions with CGC title and click load here. You will see that it fills out the fields. So title anywhere in field is CH, which means champion, sorry, and post title is CGC. For the post title, we have all these post titles that are available to us, whereas for the title field, we have to enter in free text. So let's find those. The 71 hounds that have registered both a champion title and a CGC title. Most of them are in the USA, since that's where we have most of the CGC titles. I'll pull up another one and see if we can find maybe Scandinavian champions. So here we are searching a rather more complex search where country of origin is Norway or Sweden or Denmark or Finland, and the title field contains CH, or the title contains CIB, which is the international champion title. You might also want to add the Nordic titles here. So clicking update there will give us a list of all hounds that are bred in Scandinavia or Nordic countries and who has a champion title. Again, just browse down to find them all. Another option is to, I'll just refresh the page, find title homes with maybe a certain color wheaten, maybe. And let's say that color is not brindle, to find wheatens, but not wheaten brindles. I'll click search now. And we get all those results with homes that are wheaten but not brindle and who are champions. Long, long list. Okay. I thought we'd also do a search here for the date of birth. It might not be that useful to those of you who are less or just as little considerate as I am, but some people like to congratulate people with their litter born on a certain day. So let's find hounds that were born exactly 1 year ago. And there we have it, 1 litter from Richeron Kennels in the United States. So if you'd like, please send them a happy birthday message today. The last thing I wanted to show you is that you can do very complex searches to find potential breeding partners. This is quite the opposite of how most breeders actually work, where we find a hound who seems to match our bitch, and then go on to check the pedigrees and check all the data afterwards. So this is quite the opposite direction, and we'll find this search here, where we are looking for hounds that are born later than 2012 in France, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Switzerland, or Luxembourg, who is a male, who has a heart check, is not related to broken wheel uracil in this case. We might want to change that to somebody else, let's say Dark Mystics Marauder instead, and who already have offspring and has proven himself to be a sire. So let's see if we find any results there. Here we go. 11 potential hounds which match all these criteria. The hound should be alive, should be born in one of these countries, should be a male, should be heart tested, should not be related to Dark Mystics Marauder, and already have proven himself to be a sire. You might want to add another option here and say deceased is not known, to exclude those dogs that we know have passed on already. And then we got results down to 10. So in order to save the search, I'll just click Save Search, give it a name, potential partners in Midwestern Europe, and save search. What happens then is that it will be available to me here, and from any unit where I'm logged in, I can load this search. So I'll just load another one just to show how this works, and then go back to this one and click load again, and we find this complete list of searches. And I guess you can see why I advise that you actually are logged in, because creating these searches can be quite time consuming. Right, so that's really what we wanted to show you at this time. I'm not sure if there's any questions. If there is, please come with them, and we'll do our very best to answer. Meanwhile, I'll just do a commercial plunge and remind you all that we have a donate button here, which you might use to donate money to us. We are dependent on our users actually supporting us financially as well. So if you have a euro or two to spare, please don't hesitate to use the donate button. All right, I haven't noticed any questions, so I think we'll leave it with that. If you remember anything later on, just use this thread and just add the questions here, and we'll get back to you. Also,